sending more emails about where the contract is, or saying, if you just get one more student, it'll pay for itself, doesn't work.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your no-fluff guide to artificial intelligence in higher ed. I'm Mallory Willsea, bringing nearly 20 years of edtech and marketing expertise straight to your earbuds. Higher ed leaders are expected to master AI overnight, but let's be real, no one has time to sift through every headline, hot take, or research report. That's why every Monday, I'll break down what actually matters. Fast, clear, and to the point. Want to sound like the smartest person in the room at your next team meeting? You're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Higher Ed Pulse. On today's episode, campuses spend a lot of time evaluating products and not enough time evaluating the company behind them. Before you sign, renew, or call somebody a partner, you need to know what is driving that business, growth goals, ownership pressure, product strategy, and the promises tied to all of it. Because the real question is bigger than do we like the platform? It's what kind of relationship are we stepping into? Joining me today is Sam Waterson, a higher ed marketing strategist with more than 20 years in the field and the former president of RHB. He helped lead the firm through growth and sale, which gave him a front row seat to how strategy, ownership, and revenue pressure shape the way companies sell, support, and grow. Sam, welcome to the Pulse.
Thanks for having me, Mallory.
It's so good to see you. I mean, I haven't seen you in a minute. So, let us all know, what have you been up to lately?
Oh, I am coming up on a year of time away.
That's amazing.
From business and higher ed. Yes, it has been a remarkable time of reflection and gratitude. And I've got to spend about as much family time as possible and find great priority in my life. And the last few months have been studying the landscape of higher ed, and I escaped the orbit of the restriction of a single company and have been just looking at this landscape and how these companies are built and how they coexist. And I think it's going to be a great topic of discussion today.
I can't agree more. I know we've reconnected recently and we're chatting about how we both had the pleasure of having a bit of a work sabbatical in 2025. And gosh, I really feel like I too kind of exited that period with so much clarity on what drives me professionally and what gives me energy versus takes it away from me. Do you feel like you've kind of found that for yourself?
Yeah, I think I'm somewhere in that journey of understanding what gives utility and what I can really provide to the industry. That's been really valuable for me. I don't know that that's settled or it'll ever be settled.
That's a fair point.
For my personality, but just the space to explore your interests, but also, how a changing context can drive, for me, the second mountain that I'll climb. And I'm super grateful for it. Really, it's been a good time.
Well, that's amazing. And congrats to you for recognizing that you needed the time and for actually taking it. But you know what? You are such a perfect guest for today's conversation. So let's dive into it, friends. It's budget season. Surprise, right? Here we are in the spring yet again. And whether we're scrambling to spend this year's fiscal dollars or planning for the next year, this is the season when a lot of institutions are signing new contracts, expanding scopes, sizing up renewals, and kind of everything in between. And in those conversations, campuses spend a lot of time evaluating the product or the service in front of them, right? You sit in the demo, you get the committee together, you evaluate the feature set and implementation plan, and absolutely, all of that matters. But if you're building a real partnership with the people on the other side, you also need to understand the company behind the pitch. What is that company trying to do right now? And where's their pressure coming from? The relationship a campus gets is shaped by more than just the product they're buying. The corporate strategy affects the roadmap, support, and consolidation risk. Ownership matters, whether it's venture-backed, PE-backed, etc. We're going to get into all of this today. And, it is budget season, and that is why this conversation matters right now, because, Sam, nobody talks about this shit. So we're going to talk about this shit. And this is where I want to start, all right? There's a trap. Higher ed is trained to evaluate the demo and the deliverables. We have a procurement office with check boxes and we need 3 vendors, et cetera, right? But in your opinion, as higher ed evaluates these potential partners to work with, where do we tend to focus too narrowly on the product or the service and just miss kind of the evaluation of the company itself behind it?
I think you're right. And more as we watch the landscape, how companies are structured, grown, or consolidated, we need to evaluate the company itself and why it exists, how it's growing, what it's optimizing for, and what might happen next with that company. We do tend to focus rightly on relationships with individuals within on each side of that. And those can be part of the context. But understanding incentives on each side of this relationship is really important, particularly at the corporate level. So if we look too closely at the product or the service, or only focus on that with our scorecard, I don't think we're thinking far enough ahead about the relationship that's going to occur post-contract, post-signature. Because the context of how that company is built, why it's built, is going to influence delivery. And it's going to influence the way the company behaves throughout your relationship. And that's not good, bad, or otherwise. It's just reality of the context you're going into. You're going into a set of incentives. And that's, you really need to understand that as you evaluate a potential partner to serve your needs. How fixated are they on their product? How fixated are they on customer service? How fast are they growing? How are they funded? All those things you just really need to be thinking about even as you start conversation with a meaningful vendor. And there are many dimensions of diverse array of the way these things pop up, but I think they're predictable. And that's my point is you can understand more about a company from the onset, and that will just help you build for a better future.
All right, well, let's stay with this for a second, because I think this is kind of the heart of this conversation. You just mentioned a lot of things, a lot of signals that might tell us what kind of relationship we're actually stepping into when we make a decision to bring a new vendor on board. So what are those signals? Like, let's really dissect them.
Yeah, okay. There's a bunch of them.
Where to start?
I would start with who they're hiring. Okay, I would start there. How is the talent base being built up? Where are those people coming from? What roles are they in? Are they in billable roles? Are they developers? Are they sales and growth people? Are they operations people? What industries are those people coming from? I like that. I like that as a starting point because it's evident and it's the way you're going to interface with that company. And it gives you a kind of a tangible way of seeing corporate strategy play out in terms of a hiring plan. How does that company talk about their future? Like if it's a product, are they transparent about the roadmap? Is the sales team really optimistic about features that haven't been delivered yet? Are they not talking about the future of the product? How future oriented are they about this services and product features that exist? And I think when you start to hear tone about where a company is looking at their own future, it starts to disclose how much planning there is. Or not, or isn't. A couple of others, how quickly do they respond to certain themes? Do you get a different response time from sales folks versus feature requests versus tickets versus account service? Start to understand where in that organization you're getting response times and how quickly are they responding and how interested are they. So I think the critical one is how did the relationship shift post-sale? So I had a really responsive, incredible account team, growth team. They're focused on that. And they were really, really great. We signed the contract and things slowed down. That's natural, but how did it slow? Was your account handed over to a junior person? Just evaluate the dimensions there and just be listening. And you don't have to be critical. The relationship should change from growth to delivery, but just understand how it's changing and does it fit what you thought you were getting when you were discovering and negotiating with this vendor. Again, these are just contexts. They're not inherently good or bad. They exist everywhere. But if we're listening methodically to those things, I think you'll start to get a clearer picture about what's going on.
Okay. So I heard you say three things. I heard you say roadmap,
Yep.
speed of response time,
Yep.
and the relationship handoffs and shifts throughout the lifetime of your engagement. So I actually love to pick each one of those apart.
I would add talent.
And talent. That's right. That was the first one, talent. Well, perfect. Okay. So I want to jump in on roadmap though, because I don't know. I have sat in many a demo where the product I am evaluating is maybe not quite right for me today, but boy, do those promises look good. And the roadmap that the salesperson is selling me has everything I could possibly want or need within like 3 months, right? Or maybe that's too quick, but you know what I'm saying? Like we've all been there in the room where we're like, is this too good to be true in terms of the roadmap, or is this actually realistic? And if I'm a campus leader sitting in a demo this spring, like what are some of the questions that I could be asking to kind of poke holes into the realistic nature of whatever roadmap is and picture is being painted in front of me?
Yeah, I don't think it has to be very complicated. I do think there is a bit of a dance that may be unnecessary in these back and forths, and you've experienced this. I think you can be kind and direct about the way you're seeing and the way you're evaluating what's been presented to you, and make objective questions about, okay, when is this feature set going to deliver? My interest in this product is dependent on the feature set you presented today. How will we negotiate contract terms that delivers on the roadmap? I wouldn't always consider it leverage on the customer side, but I would say being direct at anything abstract is totally fair. It's totally fair, and salespeople, growth people, and people running demos should be well equipped to answer those questions. That's their responsibility. If I'm on a campus, I'm going to make sure that I'm contractually covered for what I'm seeing. So that's a buying a promise is not a strategy. So and also depending on how that company is built and incentivized, you may never see that roadmap to its fruition. So I wouldn't be afraid to be candid and kind, of course, with that person and say, hey, I'm fired up about what you just showed me today. I need assurances, real ones, that these are going to be delivered in the time frame that you've suggested. We can write our contract about that if you like. And that feels civil to me, Mallory. But often we're trying to get a little gotcha, or we're afraid. We don't want to insult anyone, but that's the responsibility of that person, the creator, to be able to answer some of those questions. And also, if they can't, not to say 6 more months, but to say, I don't know. I can't guarantee this one in a time frame. That's fair too. But then we're going to work towards a concession. So I think that's how I would approach that conversation. It's very hard to build product, AI or not. It's very hard to build a company. It's very hard to bring them to market. It's very hard to grow them. And I think as more campus leaders understand that, you can build a great deal of respect for that, but also make sure the responsibility for the product is with the company. And I think that would be a much healthier discussion than some of them that I've observed. Of course, there are great people that do this all the time too, as well.
Yeah. So where do you think an institution feels the effects of corporate strategy first? Is it, in the list you had given, is it in the talent, the roadmap, the speed of response, the relationship handoffs, the pricing, like something else entirely?
Yeah, I think it shows up in you. I don't think it's going to show up in the deck. The corporate strategy is probably not going to be there. And depending on what kind of company you're working with, there may be not a documented corporate strategy, right? I think it shows up in behaviors just like that. Who are they hiring for my account? What is this company really focused on? What are they investing in? What is the support system? Like if it's in services, do I have a one-to-one relationship with an account person, or is it a team that fields questions? It's in a bunch of behaviors that are market facing that you'll start to sort of feel corporate strategy. How fast things go or don't, what gets built, what doesn't get built. Those are all kind of connected to corporate strategy, even though like you're not going to get a one pager that says, here's company X's corporate strategy. But by and large, those are rooted in, those behaviors are rooted in and incentivized for, and they show up in the market in a certain way, and you just need to watch those behaviors.
Gonna hit pause for a second to share some awesome news. If you or your team are looking for practical strategies to crush operational bottlenecks and scale engagement with AI, then the Engage Summit 2026 in Charlotte needs to be your destination this June, the 15th through the 17th. From hands-on sessions to main stage keynotes showing how AI transforms enrollment and retention, Engage Summit is the place to level up your institution's game in ways you probably didn't realize were possible. You'll walk away with tools, frameworks, and connections that actually move the needle, and people who will keep pushing you forward long after the conference ends. The good news, spots are still available, and the better news, Enrollify listeners can get 50% off the ticket price. Yes, half off. Just head to engage.element451.com and use the code Mallory50. That's MALLORY50. Now back to the show. Another thing you're not going to get a one pager for is the ownership structure. That's typically not like, the headline of the About Us page on the website. But it does shape everything from pace to pressure to politics. And ultimately it does shape the client experience as well. There's a lot of different ownership models, right? It might be public versus private, venture capital versus private equity. Like, why does a campus leader need to care about this?
It's a good question. And it's a lot of what I've been thinking about for the last probably 6 months, which was there are tons of great companies doing wonderful, remarkable work, and people and inventive people and entrepreneurs that are doing incredible work. But the context in which they're doing their work affects the relationship they have with campuses, good, bad, and otherwise. But it just matters. If I'm a campus leader and I'm going to sign with a company for a product that really suits my needs really, really well, then I need to know about their future as well. We need to be connected and aligned in terms of where we're going together. So you look at those different structures like venture, right? Of course, what comes to mind? High growth, market share. You're in a defined time window, likely, right? Probably not going to be working margins necessarily, but we're really focused on growth, and it's in a window. And I think it's really fair to go to that company and ask about their future. I really do. And
I agree.
They're going to be optimistic. They're going to be optimistic too because they're growing a customer base. They're growing a better product that needs users. That's painting with a broad brush, but you're looking at velocity, scale, and I think we need to think together into the future. If you think about private equity, it's in a defined time window, and where you are in that window, where the hold time is, affects the way that company is going to behave. That's predictable, and if it's early, you're going to see a lot of, hopefully you'll see some investment. You're going to see some consolidation. You're going to see teams and reorgs. And as you get later, you're going to start optimizing on EBITDA. And that's the way that relationships is going to be. depending on where you are in that interaction, again, generalizing, you're going to experience that company differently. And in some cases, both this and in the publicly held, you may be interacting with a company that was owned by somebody else before. So how well is that company integrated into this portfolio? Is it new? Has it been integrated? These are just objective questions to ask about where you are in relationship, particularly with private equity. Publicly traded places are going to be risk averse. They're going to be transparent. They're regulated, not necessarily nimble in all cases. They may have built out a division via an acquisition, and you can investigate that. I would certainly want to know about the health of a business unit looking at a publicly traded company because of how the structure and accountability is set for shareholders. And but I think these are all different kind of dimensions. A privately held company, I really want to know what's in the founder's head. It's going to be we've all met founders. They are going to be strong flavors, and they're passionate about their products, and they're passionate about higher ed most of the time. And you want to know where that founder's head's at. And that's a great thing. And candidly, it's super fun and interesting to get to know these people because of how challenging what they're doing is. So those structures are certainly going to play out in your relationship, but they're known. You don't have to guess, and it's really fair to ask questions. And I if I'm waving a magic wand, I'm freeing everyone out to say, hey, this is not embarrassing. And typically it's not private. Some like PE won't disclose their cap tables sometimes, and you won't understand every dimension of it. But there are certain questions you can ask that are really fair.
I think this was incredible advice. I hope people back the podcast up right before they go into their next vendor evaluation and re-listen to that, because unless you've been living under a rock, I think, especially since the pandemic, it is very clear that private equity has entered the higher ed space and are buying companies, agencies, and product companies. And so these are really there is no better time to have this conversation than now. We mentioned a little while ago that institutions are nearing the end of their fiscal year. Now, for many companies who primarily serve higher ed, I know some have aligned to the fiscal years of colleges and universities, but some haven't. Some organizations on the day this episode drops are right at the end of Q1, and some organizations on the day this episode drops are right at the end of Q3. And that matters because sales goals shape urgency, discounting, and promises in ways that higher ed leaders might not always be thinking about. So help us think about that, Sam.
Yeah. Again, you're recognizing the behaviors, the incentives play out in behaviors, right? So this is really predictable. It's the end of the quarter. Many companies, maybe the theme of talking about the corporate structure is about predictability, right? Predictable revenue. How far out into the future can I predict with some degree of certainty? And many companies are built on quarterly strategies, certainly annual goals, based on service lines, based on individual representatives and account people, based on new business, account growth, etc. I don't think that would surprise anyone. The behavior you're seeing play out around a quarter means that there is some incentive for a portion of that person's goal to come in at a certain time window. And yeah, it feels really weird to worry about a contract coming in minus 1 day before the quarter or plus 3 days before the quarter. I think for being reasonable people, that really doesn't matter. But for that sales rep, that may mean a monetary incentive doesn't come in. Now, maybe she makes that the next quarter. I don't know. But the fact is that incentive set is being applied over the market. Okay, this doesn't have to be yucky. It feels a little yucky probably to say, oh gosh, I really don't have time to sign that right now. And we're talking about business 3 months from now. Yeah, I think the best salespeople will be able to figure out how to be empathetic and work their own goals out. but it's just an incentive structure inside that company that's playing out in a behavior. And you can, as a buyer, you can determine whether you like that or not. If I'm advising a campus, maintain your agency. You are the decider. You will not be pressured. If there is time pressure there might be leverage. And that leverage may become in the form of a discount, or additional services, or something else. Not that we need to play that game necessarily, but that is what is happening here in this negotiation. And maintain your control. That's what I'll say. And on the sales side, being empathetic that Wednesday versus Thursday matters very little on that campus. And if you don't have a relationship with that person where they understand you, where you're driving at, and that you both have shared incentives to grow this account and become successful, then Wednesday versus Thursday is never going to matter.
Trust has to be earned for that relationship to work over time. And I think that sometimes companies are underestimating how complex institutional decision making is. And I say that even in relation to the companies that only service this industry. Sometimes we still forget how complicated it is to get that signature all the way up the chain. So you touched on this in your last answer a little bit, but what are your thoughts from kind of like the other side of the table? What can companies stop misunderstanding about higher ed's buyer cycles?
Yeah. Gosh, I don't want to be controversial.
Ooh, we love controversy. Come on, Sam.
I'm waiting for this to get dramatic. Institutions aren't businesses. It's been a hot take to call it a business. There are certain elements of business. Institutions are certainly behaving more like commodities all the time, but they, in fact, are not businesses. So they aren't built the same way to process a commercial transaction necessarily as you are. There is hidden complexity in that decision-making set. Often involves more stakeholders than you might believe, even at the executive levels. And they are built a lot of these processes are built to be safe. And that's an oversimplification, certainly. Understanding that your sales cycle is going to be on high trust, probably slower or at least more methodical. Understanding that silence isn't always negative. It's just the process playing out, and being confident in what you've proposed is compelling and will really affect that institution. And I think if you have those ingredients in the right mix, you'll have more understanding of what's happening on the campus itself. Sending more emails about where the contract is, or saying, if you just get one more student, it'll pay for itself, doesn't work.
Stop it.
Please stop it.
Any ed tech leaders listening right now, stop it.
I know that it's frustrating, people, but let's find a new way. Send what's the fruit bouquets? What are those called?
Oh, those edible arrangements?
Yeah, send an edible arrangement. Those are so good.
They're not bad.
But then you get your fruit, it's always out.
I love it. As we're winding down, Sam, I want to land here because this conversation matters the most if it changes how people walk into their next meeting. So if I'm a campus leader, I'm heading into a chat about a renewal or an expansion or maybe even a brand new partnership, what is the one or two questions that I absolutely need to be asking in order to understand not just the product, but the business and the relationship that I am buying into?
It's a good question. And you said it to me before.
I mean, I did give you a few days to think about it, Sam, for the record.
I need more time. No, I've been thinking about this because if I'm suggesting anything here is more homework on things beyond the product or good or service that we're talking about. Look at how look at the genesis of this company. Look at how it's composed. Look at its cap table. Look at how it's being invested in, etc. Like, go do that homework and build a broader context. But if somebody's sitting across from me asking me to pay for something, and I believe in its value, I'm going to ask questions like, what is the company? What are you and the company focused on the most right now? And listen to that. Is that about growth? Is that about quality customer service? Is that about product development? Is that listen to what they're saying? And I think that will reveal a lot. What are you focused on right now? The second one, and this you may not get an answer for, but I would ask what they're investing in. What are you investing most in right now? What are you investing in? I'm investing in professional development for my teams. I'm investing in, everyone is going to say I'm investing in AI. What do you mean by I'm investing in AI? In your own workflows, in this product I'm going to buy? Are you going to put up a calling plan for me? What are you talking about? Just get clear about what you invested in. And I think when that person across the table, or maybe you sit next to them, I prefer that.
Or they're over Zoom or whatever it is.
Yeah, I've been off a while.
You're like, what's Zoom?
What's new? I think when you get that person excited about what they're doing, and it's going to tell you loads. And you might get excited about that too. It's infectious sometimes. You know, I've had this tour of talking to companies over the last 6 months, and I just get so excited when they're just knee deep in a product and they're just loving what they're doing or loving a portion of it. And you're like, oh man, that's what's going to make this work, guys. So listen to that. I think the next thing I would ask would be, how do relationships like ours change over time, right? So if in your renewal season, hey, we've had a great first year together, or hey, let's change these things next year. In your experience and in your portfolio, tell me, how do relationships like ours change over time? Not good or bad, but what is the material difference in how we work together? And I think even negotiating on that will build a stronger partnership and create clearer lines about where are we both incentivized. And that's kind of, I think those would be the three. I came up with 12, I think, but those would be the three I would work on if you really did your homework on the onset.
Yeah. Oh, that is great. That's a great way to end this episode. Really concrete advice that folks can take into their next meeting on Tuesday morning. Sam, I just so appreciate your time and lending all of this great expertise in such a, in buying season nonetheless, right? So where can folks find you if they want to follow up?
You can find me on LinkedIn.
I don't know why I keep asking people this question, because the answer is always LinkedIn. So I'm going to rephrase. Where on LinkedIn can people find you?
Yeah,
no.
I wasn't going to put my phone number on the internet, but I would certainly welcome hearing from everybody on LinkedIn. I don't talk on the internet very much, but I do talk one-to-one. You caught me. And I'm in a season of just trying to help people. And I'll continue to do that. And I've really enjoyed my time today. Thank you.
Wow, that's incredible. All right, folks. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one, and we will catch you next week. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Pulse. The show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow. So be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.